and welcome back to Getting to the Top, where we interview transformational leaders about their leadership journey. And today I have the honor of interviewing Danielle Dumas. Danielle is the Director of Marketing and Business Development for Mastercard. As Director of Business Development and Account Management, Danielle pursues digitization and financial inclusion opportunities in the payment space within Trinidad and Tobago and across several markets in the English-speaking Caribbean. She's also the lead relationship manager for key regional financial institutions across the region. She joined Mastercard from Ernst & Young, where she was a senior manager in the strategy and transaction service line. Before that, she spent several years at Republic Bank Limited. She's a scholarship winner, and she holds a Master of Science in International Finance from the UWI Arthur Lockjack Graduate School of Business and a Bachelor's in Business Administration from UWI Roytec. Welcome, Danielle.
Thank you very much for having me. It's my pleasure to be here.
All right. So, I always say that it's really great to have a start in finance and finance-related enterprises for women in their careers. I think it's such a good place to start. So tell us about, what made you pursue that, and when did you decide that this was the path you were going to take?
Well, I think that I've always ended up somewhere in either banking, finance, or strategy. I mean, I used to work for BW Miles, and it was an admin type calculation sort of role. And then I was in Republic Bank for about 3 stints, always in a finance or an accounting role. And at Ernst & Young, it really solidified my love for numbers. And I agree with you. Finance is really a good solid base because they have so many different fields that you can venture from that finance base. Now, when I first started, I'll be honest and say that I didn't know where the peak would be. I still don't know where the peak is. But, failing a Broadway or Hollywood break, I think this is where my path would be.
Wonderful. So but at the start, when was the first time that you said, you know what, I'm going to study finance?
In Roytec, in UWI Roytec, I had a choice between marketing and I chose finance. And just the depth and breadth of finance and where it can lead and just figuring out companies and being able to look at their financials and know if they're good or bad. I just love numbers. I've always been a lover of math, which kind of naturally led into the finance field.
I find that so many women choose a marketing track and shy away from finance. And you were faced with that crossroads and picked finance, but it was always your natural inclination. Was there any point during that journey where you said, I made a mistake?
I wouldn't say I made a mistake, but I found a creative way to blend both. In my role in business development, I think I get the joy and the opportunity to blend both. Maybe not marketing per se, but I definitely get to sell and promote and also meet great people and be that sort of sales role in that sales role. And I sit down with the executives and I get to sort of promote our brand. So I think I found the perfect role currently where I get to do a little bit of both.
I think that's excellent. And so, now you're in this role. Tell me what do you love most about the role that you're currently in? And then maybe we'll work our way back.
Okay. So at first, when I left Ernst & Young, it was a terrifying moment for me because, all my life I've been in finance and strategy. And here was this role and this opportunity in Mastercard that's sort of on the other side of strategy where you're like in the midst and in the execution. So at first, I thought, in the first couple of months, I was like, oh no, I made a mistake. I'm a team of one in Trinidad, working remote. Everyone is all over the world. The structure of Mastercard is very different from Ernst & Young, where decision making is sort of bureaucratic. So it was a completely new learning experience, and I thought, oh no, this has to be a mistake. Let me run back to UI. but then after time, I somehow in this role, it pushed me being a team of one and not having anybody to sort of reach out to or knock on somebody's door that was next to you. The increase in confidence and what I tell people is the personal growth that I've experienced in this new role I don't look back. I don't look back. Definitely is the path for me.
But how do you, and I say to a lot of women who pursue leadership, one of the drawbacks is the lack of community. Because once you get to the top of an organization in a market or top of an organization within a particular area, it becomes very, very lonely. It is that same thing where, if you have a problem and you need to consult somebody, there's nobody that you can necessarily go to and have a off the record conversation because, like you're saying, you're that team of one. So how do you, as that team of one, build community so that you do have, yes, you rely on yourself, but in those instances where you need support, how do you build that community?
So this is where I really feel like the importance of mentorship is significant for me. Having a solid group of women that one, you aspire to be, if you want to say that, or they have qualities that you aspire to work on becoming. I think that's really important. Now, even though physically I'm a team of one, there are some superstar women within Mastercard and around me, like yourselves, as well as I still hold very close to me the partners and the colleagues from Ernst and Young that have now become family. But I think that mentorship and finding women who either you aspire to be or have similar qualities that you can bounce ideas off of, I think is really important on this journey. We get into this and there's this sort of darkness. I don't want to say darkness on women, but this extra weight of you have to do this. You have to have this story. You have to have this story of struggle and doing it on your own with no help from men or women. And I feel like that's a big flaw in that sort of drive to start from zero because they have other women who've been on this path before. They have other men who have been on your path before. And you can benefit from the mistakes that they've made. I mean, not to be cliche, but it takes me back to that quote of if you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together. So I think having that strong community of women who push you beyond your limits and having that mentorship is really, really critical in that journey to the top and staying there.
I agree. It sounds though like you developed that network of women organically on your journey. And lately I've gotten a lot of requests like online, can you mentor me? And it always feels so broad and boundless. And it lacks that kind of organic development where we know that, we we have a vibe, we get along. It's not an imposition for us to meet because there is some common thread that we have that we can rely on to kind of keep us together. And so when you've developed that organization of mentors and colleagues that can support you in this role organically, have there ever been instances where you've reached out to somebody completely unknown? And it's fine if the answer is no, but I'm just curious as to how you've built this community through, past experiences, past jobs, people within your network. Have you reached out outside of that network, or has it all been organic?
I think both. I think 5 years ago I went to a conference and they were highlighting what I guess the speaker thought was the difference between mentorship and like a teacher or a guidance counselor, right? And one of the key things was that mentorship was something that happened naturally, right? Where people had like interests and it starts off with conversations and it starts off with coffee and then it grows into talking about business and different things. And it's just something that always should happen organically in terms of mentorships. And then they have other things like, okay, I have this teacher or I have this person that I go to for guidance or this business partner or this business, friend, etc. But I think mentorship, one of the key things about mentorship is that organic state of growth. And I mean, I'm guilty. I mean, I saw your post on Instagram about people reaching out, and I'm like, I wonder if I should message and be like, hey, can you mentor me? Right? But I have made that mistake in the past of not even realizing when you have a mentor, that
Mm,
person that you think of when you have a success or when you have a failure or when something is going well or bad, you just reach out to them and say, hey, what do you think about this? Or
right.
this happened, and it's that person that sort of finds that silver lining for you or
Mm,
highlights the lesson from it. But yeah, I mean, I've made the mistake of asking people to be my mentor, which, I think 9 out of 10 times may not work if you don't have similar interests. But the ones that I do have, you're right. People just kind of, I mean, I think I've been fortunate where people see something special,
Yeah.
if you want to call it that, and they just naturally see that. Um, I want to say timidity. I mean, a lot of people listening may not know that I, may not be the overconfident person, right? But some people see that sort of dim spark and they just feel like, you know what, I want to stick with her because I feel like she needs to be reminded and be able to fan that flame to become this big fire of potential.
Please never describe yourself as a dim spark. It's just you burn brightly. And to underscore that, you are working for a global brand. And that's a big deal. And I think sometimes you sort of neglect those things, right? That this is a
Correct.
significant, right? This is a significant role that you hold within a global enterprise that is a household name.
Yes. And it's the noise I think of. And I know that men also suffer from it, but and I've heard you talk about it many times on different podcasts, but you see the noise of imposter syndrome,
Yeah.
and especially in women. That's why sometimes you might hear, on one thing I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm the most confident. And then imposter syndrome says, well, who do you feel that you are? How did you get here? Do you deserve this? And it's really, and that's where your community again comes back in to sort of quiet that imposter syndrome noise and remind you that, you are who you are and you are where you are because of who you are and what you work so hard to achieve.
Yeah. And I think, it's so easy for us to sometimes get into this whole posture where we think perfection is what is required, especially for women. And, study after study has shown that women struggle with this perfectionism. But I think what's important is, for me, at least what helps me when I start thinking, oh my gosh, I'm not good enough for this moment, or I'm not good enough for this opportunity, is that any leader that you've ever worked with up close, you've seen both the good and the bad, and you've realized that nobody's perfect. And the only time we attribute perfection to leadership are with the people that we don't have a close enough association with to know what their flaws are, or to know that they make mistakes. So I
That's
think,
actually true.
yeah, yeah. And so, whenever I find myself comparing myself unfavorably to others, which you should never do at all. You shouldn't be comparing yourself to anybody. You're running your own race. You're comparing yourself against who you were yesterday. But anytime I find myself falling into that pattern, I think about all of the leaders that I've worked with. And I have been incredibly blessed. I've worked with some amazing, brilliant, spectacular leaders, but none of them have been without their flaws. And so recognizing that you can still be excellent and have flaws and have areas that you're working on and have things that you want to develop, even when you know that I don't ever want to be finished. I don't ever want to be done. I always want to be able to grow. So it means that you're always working on something. And rather than being upset about that or thinking that that's not okay, take that as a badge of honor. Like, I am still growing. I'm still capable of excellence and greater things.
Yes, I agree with you 100% because I mean, part of what makes us who we are is the constant need or the constant desire to be better, right? Because I mean, who wants to win the race and then what?
And then what?
And I think the joy of us is constantly setting these new goals and setting these new limits to constantly prove to ourselves that we can go beyond our limits and achieve new things. So
Love
I
it.
agree with you.
So what has been the thing that you're most proud of in your work with Mastercard?
So far, I think that it is forming relationships with executive level members. I mean, growing up, you tend to look at CEOs as superheroes, if you want to call it that, or as you
Yeah.
said, far away, right? And actually sitting down in boardrooms with these executives and hearing their concerns and hearing what keeps them up at night and realizing that, as you said, these people are human right? And me being brave enough to sit down in a boardroom with executives on my own was a great achievement for me. And another thing that this opportunity brought me was, I'm not a panel speaker or a moderator, but because I am a team of one, we had sponsored the AmCham conference last year, and I moderated a panel. And even though it was nerve-wracking, it's something that I don't think I would have done if I was in a team of one. And that was a significant achievement for me to go up on that stage, and know that I can do it. And I really, really, really enjoyed it. So those are two of the big things that stand out for me in this new role.
Oh, fantastic. And I am so delighted to hear that you're open to those opportunities because we get quite a few of those opportunities. So, one of the things that I know, a lot of the strongest professionals that I've worked with who have gone on to additional leadership have come from the big four, whether it's EY, KPMG, etc. So tell me a little bit about your time at EY and what was that like?
I think that I would not be where I am today if it wasn't for my 8 years at EY. It's funny how I started at EY. I was now studying my master's, and I was fortunate to have one of the leaders in Republic Bank at the time, see something in me, again, another opportunity to sort of work on evaluation, right? Because Republic Bank was purchasing a company at the time. So textbook valuation, and then here comes Ernst and Young, right? Maria Danielle and Gina Matthew, two partners in EY, come to actually present I want to say a proper valuation. And
Right.
my mouth was on the floor, and you saw like stars in my eyes that this is where I want to be, And right after the meeting, the leader goes, not a chance. I'm seeing how you're looking at them. You're not leaving. No, you're not leaving here. I'm seeing what you're doing. I forbid you from pursuing EY. But then I had a friend who knew Maria, and I was like, please get me into that place, And since then, you know, I would say EY. I mean, I don't know about the experience in the other big four, but there's something special about the culture of EY that is all about family and all
Yeah.
about driving opportunities. And I can specifically talk about our unit called Strategy and Transactions under the leadership now of Maria Daniel, then Zach Nadur. It was always people first,
Mm,
without a doubt. If you ask anybody about Maria as a leader, it's people first, work after. And I remember knowing that it was the place for me at the time, because everybody says, oh, big four, 18-hour work days, very late hours. And because of the type of work that we do there in terms of transactions, and there's no 8 to 4 when it comes to companies buying or selling each other.
right.
And I remember it was probably like 11 p.m. and we were trying to rush this report because it was like one of those unique situations of transactions. And the partner came out and said, give me a section to write. So a lot of people view, executives and CEOs and leaders as these people who, while the staff is working and up at night, they're asleep. And I think that what defines a true leader is that leader is also up with you.
Yeah.
And that is what I kept experiencing over and over. Personal development, sending you on courses, looking at your potential, giving you chances to lead. I think that was, the culture that really gave me a solid foundation to, if you want to say, go out in the world with this Mastercard opportunity.
I think, I've heard a lot about Maria specifically, and I'm not attributing all of that success to her, but to just give her credit in that I've heard so many people attribute success to her guidance, to her leadership, to her mentorship, to her just warm, loving care in their careers and pushing them beyond limits that they thought that they had. And I adore Maria. I think she's amazing. But there is something special that I think she is doing as well. And I love that that is a part of the overall EY story. And I have heard it in other big four firms as well, that there is, maybe it is that, 12-hour workday that drives people together. Because if you're spending that much time together, you're you're bound to sort of develop deeper bonds. But I think that is so needed, especially that component of recognizing talent and making an investment to build out that talent and to give that talent more opportunity to spread its wings.
Yeah. And it trickles down, right? Because under Maria's leadership, they had associate partners like Gina Matthew and a senior manager, Melanie Tom, who really, I want to say, raised me in EY. I think just the three of them together really, took the time to mentor. And we're still very close to this day. And I say, as they say, friends turn family. And they were really integral to my growth, not only professionally, but personally along the way. So that's why I stress that, having that community of women who uplift and are there for you, and that you see qualities in that you aspire towards, and to hear their journey is really important.
So given one of the things that I've talked about recently is, there is the glass ceiling and there's also the sticky floor. And after 8 years of EY, how were you brave enough to leave? And what was that process like for you? I'm not sure how the opportunity for Mastercard came to you, but how did you feel confident enough to sort of say, you know what, I've learned all that I needed to learn here, and I'm ready to take on the next challenge?
Well, actually, I was not brave to leave. Um, when the opportunity first came, I turned it down about twice. And then I had a friend just tell me, and a friend and a mentor actually tell me, why not just go through the process? I'm not a business development person by experience, but there are elements of business development in what I do at EY, So at first, when, as you say, women are perfectionists, right? If a square is not a square, we think that we're not going to fit, not
Yeah.
realizing that a circle could also fit into a square, but just in a different way, right?
Right.
So when you look at a job description and you just look at it black and white and you tell yourself, well, I'm not qualified for that. But I was pushed to apply, and there were about 8 rounds. And every time I got, to the next round, I became more nervous because I'm like, oh my gosh, what is happening here? I'm actually going forward. And I'll tell you something else about when it got to a stage where it became a reality. I did discuss it with my close people at EY, and that's really how you tell the difference in a leader, because
Yeah.
even in my past careers, I think leaders are able to separate benefit for the firm and
Yeah.
benefit for the person, right? So if
Yeah.
you see an opportunity that's good for the person, they're the ones that are willing to say, go for it. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And not
Yeah.
sort of guilt or try to hold you back. Or,
Yeah.
obviously companies will offer to let you stay, etc. But
Yeah.
I think that's the key difference. But I wasn't brave. I became braver as I went along, just for the I always envisioned, and it's still one of my, an open door for me, that this is just a temporary thing. I'm just gonna go for 2 or 3 years, learn all I can learn about payments, and then probably go back to EY and start a payment service line. So it was never like a closed chapter, EY, then I go to Mastercard and figure something out. It was always just I want to see what's out there on the other side of strategy, to sort of fill that gap that I felt was missing in terms of implementation and execution, because I was always on the strategy side, to then figure out, coming back, and how do I add value to the firm after that.
That is so interesting. And you know what I love about that? The well, I'm just going through the process, right? I'm learning through the process. And I think that's such a nice way to kind of tip your toe in the water when you want to try something, but you're not necessarily confident enough. But you're thinking, what's the worst that can happen? I learn something through this process and I go through this process. And I'm not going to get this job, so I'm just going to do it. I love that because that
Yeah.
allows you to kind of ease your way into something that is likely meant for you that you might be too scared to do. So I think
Yeah.
for the young women listening, if there's an opportunity that scares you, and I think the first thing is, if it scares you, that's the right opportunity. The right opportunity should frighten you, because that means that you are pushing your boundaries sufficiently. But just think about it as what you will learn just going through this experience, even if you don't think you're going to get to the end, even if you don't think you're going to be successful, but at least make an effort and go through this process. But the other thing
Correct.
that you mentioned that I think is so important is what leadership really means. And I've been on both sides, obviously. I've been on the side where, I've decided that I'm going to leave and been offered more money to stay and stayed, which was a horrible decision because once you've decided to leave, you have mentally decided to leave. And it is rare that more money or something different will make you want to stay. But more importantly, there are if you aren't able to get what you need where you are, and that then forces your hand to make you want to leave, then why is some retroactive recognition of what your needs are sufficient to make you stay? And I think that there is that inherent insecurity in staying for the wrong reasons because you're like, oh, well, I'm going to a place that's not as secure. Be confident enough in your skills that if that doesn't work out, something else will. And so rarely, people rarely regret the chances that they took. They more often regret the chances that they didn't take at the end of their lives. So I think it's really important that we start thinking through, taking these chances and making sure that you are challenging yourself sufficiently. Now, on the
Yeah. And
flip
I
side,
think for me,
oh, go ahead. Yes.
yeah. No, and I think for me, it wasn't financial or anything like that with EY. As I said, I only entertained the idea because I was pushed, gently by my mentor to say, you know, because I've had long stints of careers, right? I wasn't the traditional interviewee that always was interviewed, etc. So he said, one, it can build experience being interviewed by people you don't know or
Yeah.
people who don't know you because it was people dispersed all over the world. So they don't know me from Adam,
Right.
right? So it's like an authentic interview experience. And not only that, when they make an offer, right, you can actually, maybe see what the market values you at,
Yeah.
right? So if you don't know your value, right, based on current circumstances, etc., it gives you an idea of what it is. So just go
Yeah.
through the process. What could it hurt?
Yeah.
And I think that the braveness in EY, which came probably 6 months after I left, I think part of it was also that because I fell into roles, right,
Mhm.
or was headhunted for roles, I felt like I was always protected, and one of the reasons why I wanted to experience this new thing in Mastercard was sort of to, and I mean, some people hear this and they think it's crazy, but I wanted to experience what, real felt like, like
Yeah.
being in that potential toxic environment where you don't know anybody, or you know what I mean? So I just felt like I wanted to experience that to get that little piece of, the world and then come back to EY until I retire and get gray.
Sticky floor. So the other part though, I've been in many situations where I've had really amazing people and I have seen where they have grown out of the organization or grown out of the role and there isn't another role for them within the organization that would suit their talent, or really amazing people who have decided to leave for whatever reason, career growth, different challenge, what have you. And while it's always difficult because the organization will suffer and that you will miss them, but you have to be more invested in their future as people. You have to care about them enough to know that you will find somebody else amazing and you will create a new opportunity for another amazing person to come. And there are people who you will never really replace, but you will make a new friend who comes in and does something else that's different and incredible and fills a new space within the organization. And I think as leaders, as much as changing out staff or watching staff learn and grow can be an inconvenience, you have to think about it from the standpoint of what is the big picture? And what I'm happy to say about how that's worked for us and how it's worked for me throughout my career is that the people who have moved on and gone on to do other things from our organizations have opened doors for us within the organizations that they've gone to. And they have been great collaborators for us. So we've been really, really fortunate. But I think it's a sin to keep someone in a spot when they have so much more potential that hasn't been realized, to just keep them in this one situation because it's good for you. It's such an inequitable relationship once you're like discouraging someone from going on to the next thing and from learning and growing when it only serves you and it doesn't serve them.
But I think it's different because I've also been in both roles where, you know, a team member would come to say, you know, they've gotten this other opportunity, and you think, oh no, you know, like I don't want to lose this person. This is a person that I can count on all the time. And you kind of get that selfish moment where, you know, and I kind of understand both sides
Yeah.
because you've made this investment in this person because you see
Yeah.
them going all the way to the top. You see them being your successor. You see them carrying the flag of the entity onward and upward, right? So it does hurt. I mean, we're all
Of course.
human. It does hurt. There is this moment that you feel betrayed, or you know, what did you do wrong, or you know, was it something I said or did that this person is comfortable to leave. But as you said, I mean, I think true leadership spans beyond roles. Even though somebody might leave the company, you know, you as a leader or you as a mentor still stay in their lives, and continuing that role leads back to those opportunities you're seeing because you end up working together again, just in different companies and collaborating and doing good things together anyway.
Yeah, and it's such a smaller network now. We are all so connected via various things. And so you must know that once you when someone leaves, you will see them again. But as much as I think, and maybe it just speaks to my personality that I rarely ever think, oh, what did I do or say? Which maybe I should look into. But you do have that conversation about why you're leaving, and you hope that you're hearing the truth, good, bad, or different. I remember I was at an organization, and I won't say which one because the person who was my leader at the time is now a friend. And but he came to me and he said, "You're leaving because of me, aren't you?" And I said, "I am." And he's like, "It is because you're frustrated by my leadership style." And I said, "I am." And, all of the time that I was frustrated, I didn't know that he recognized that I was frustrated, but I knew that I could not continue working for him. And it was equally a strike against him as it was a strike against me because I need to work in a very organized environment. I'm very methodical in how I have to operate. And he was very dynamic and unstructured. And I wish that I could function in a dynamic and unstructured situation. And I just could not adapt. I cannot come into every single meeting without an agenda. I can't, or knowing how long the meeting's going to be. I'm just like, no,
Right.
I have tried. I have tried. And I said, this is as much about, you not meeting my expectations as well as me not meeting my own expectations. But I
And
cannot
both learning.
function. Yeah, I can't function or be excellent in this environment. And I had to recognize that it was also my failing. But we are still friends to this day. And I actually saw him last week and we had a big hug it out. But yeah, it's, you have to, I think it's good to have that conversation about where did I go wrong, but while not making it about me, because I understand that people's careers are their careers and they really need to take it in their direction. And I guess because I'm so vested in people reaching their full potential that I rarely ever attribute someone deciding to leave to be about me versus about them and how they see their career needing to unfold.
Yeah, well, not necessarily. I didn't mean like me person, but you know, clearly there's something in the current environment that is not ultimate. People think that, right? There's something
Yeah.
that's lacking here. That's why you're going. But it could just be that there's something new, or you're just curious because you have the time now to touch something different. So it's not always about what's lacking, but it could just be something new that you're curious about and you want to experience. But I think the default is, we reflect on, especially when you're very close to the person, you've invested a lot in the
Yeah.
person,
Yeah.
what is it that you're going away from, because we thought you were happy, we thought you know what I mean. So I think it's natural, but the relationships that stand the test of time are the ones that are really fruitful.
Yeah. So as we wrap up, I want to ask you this final question. What is the best advice you've ever received?
Okay, so I think from my uncle Andre, who is now deceased. He's now an angel in heaven. I
Oh,
remember complaining about, all the bad decisions that I made in my life, and I should have done this, maybe I should have done medicine. And he said, he pulled up a picture, and I don't know if you can visualize it, but picture a ginormous bison in a field, and there's this sort of cart, and the man has a whip. And it's sort of those five things that you rake and you plant,
yeah.
right? So there's a man that's holding a bison and is being pulled,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that man has to stay very focused holding those two reins. Because if he only looks back
Mm-hmm.
or looks to the side,
Yeah.
right, he's going to tilt the bison, and the
Yeah.
bison only knows if I feel a pull here, if I feel a pull here, right? So
Mm-hmm.
if he looks back or looks to the side, the bison is going to move off course, and those rows are not going to be straight, and they have to start over. And he
Yeah.
said, and similar to life, don't ever look back, right?
Okay.
Whatever decisions you made, no regrets. Whatever
Yeah.
you did wrong or whatever feels like it didn't work out for the best, take the lesson from it and move on. But don't ever regret what has happened in the past, and always look forward.
Oh, that's brilliant advice. That's brilliant advice. I hope he's giving it to all the angels as well. He's up there with his bison picture. But that is such great advice, right? Because you can't change what's happened. So your looking back is not going to help you in the journey ahead. You can just recall the lesson and make sure, okay, what I've learned from that is, but forward. Brilliant.
No regrets.
No regrets.
Own your decision, be accountable for every decision that you've made, and just move on and keep looking forward.
Danielle, thank you so much. It has been a pleasure and an honor, and I would be happy to be your sister mentor as we navigate this space together. And if you have,
Everyone has, this is recorded, right? I'm just saying, this is recorded, so everyone has heard that you have committed to being my sister mentor. But I just want to say thank you for having me in this space. I must say, it's actually an honor. I think this space is really wonderful, Racquel, to have women, a space where women can share their stories. So, people either hear and know that they may not be alone with a struggle. So, for instance, like talking through imposter syndrome, and somebody says, "Oh my gosh, I'm not alone," right?
yeah.
Or, like past people that you've had on the show, it inspires women to reach higher heights and know that they can reach those higher heights. So, I think what you're doing is amazing, and thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you so much. And I'm hoping that I inspire more young women to pursue leadership. It is imperative that we create a more equal world that makes sense for everybody, men and women, boys and girls alike. So thank you so much for your time, Danielle. And thank you too for watching till the end or listening till the end. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. We are doing amazing things, and we would love to add you to our list of subscribers who can help us to continue to get amazing guests. We also would love to have more recommendations for women that we should interview about their transformational leadership journeys. And until next time, bye.
Bye.